Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eric with Stellar Galaxy TCG, and today got another video coming for you. Get to see my thinning hair on with this kind of lighting. Didn't know I'm in my garage, which is kind of why it's a little bit unfinished and whatnot. But this is where all the magic happens. But either way, today I'm going to be talking about what determines the value of Pokemon cards. There are multiple things that can kind of you know, change the value of what a Pokemon card is. And basically, what we're going to be talking about here is rarity, conditioning, grading, popularity, demand for the Pokemon type, the supply of the card, all things like that. How the market is trending. Is it an investable thing? There's tons of things that can definitely change what the cost, the value of a card is. And we're just going to kind of go over a few of those things. If you see me looking down a bunch, it's because I put some notes and some bullet points to follow, so I kind of have a little bit more of a solidified focus for the video, and I don't kind of ramble on and off into another direction. Because the last video I posted about being, going from scalper to a business person, I kind of went all over the place and felt like it didn't really have much direction. But either way, I'm just journaling my path towards creating a successful Pokemon business, because I'm going to be here for a while, and you know might as well log the journey. Well, either way, let's start with the first thing: rarity slash, sets. In a sense, this makes very little difference overall. Like the rarity of a card, everything up through EX is pretty much on the worthless side. What most people would consider, even though EXs are hits, most of them are worth very little. But everybody would basically consider anything above that, whether it be gold cards, ultra rares, amazing rares from a little bit of older sets, and then you get into the illustration rares and special illustration rares and alt arts and stuff. Those are the cards that have real value, because they are typically more difficult to pull than everything under it. Um, Obviously, set makes a difference, because the older something is, the harder it is to get, that kind of a thing. So you're going all the way back to base set and everything, then you can clearly tell that that's why a lot of those cards are worth so much more, because that product came out so goddamn long ago that the possibility of even pulling new stuff is very slim, and it's a huge event when somebody does have a box or a case, or mostly just a box that they're going to be looking to open, and those packs go for a lot, and all those singles go for quite a bit. And then there's some like really weird, like super rare things that are like trophy cards, and those illustration cards, those Pikachu trophy cards, and all that kind of stuff, and those super exclusive things. Those derive value from the same reason. They're just super difficult to get, and that could definitely drive up the price. You see some of those like the Pikachu's with like the Mario Pikachu, the Van Gogh Pikachu, even though that one's a little bit easier to get. The Louis, all those variation, all the ponchos and whatnot, just due to the difficulty to get, is why a lot of those special cards, because they're not released in main sets or anything. They're all just like kind of one-offs. Um, and even though raw pricing has kind of gone through the roof on everything, because at this point people are looking for anything to invest in the staying hobby, because it's very difficult to get sealed product at a reasonable price. Especially, you can't get anything from distribution. You can't get much at MSRP unless you're able to find some restocks and things around. So people have kind of switched over to singles, because a lot of those things are still in the affordable range, and people are looking to you know find some way to make money in this hobby. And that's where you get talks like those buyouts and things like that. But a lot of it, I think, is just organic demand and people just looking for opportunities in the market. So obviously you got raw cards, and then you got graded cards. There is definitely a huge difference in value, because people perceive the raw card to come in multiple variations of how it is considered, the condition of the card, whether it be near mints or it's lightly played, heavily played. Everybody kind of has like a different idea of what each of those are, and so that can kind of make it a little bit difficult to value a card based on raw. But in the end, the market kind of decides what the market decides. Graded cards, there's a reason why there's a massive premium on a lot of these, and especially now the freaking multiples that you can get on some of these graded cards are astronomical. 10 plus X what the actual raw card value is, because you have a third party authenticator that will. Oh, my air conditioning thing just turned off, so that might be why that buzzing is gone. But you have a third party authenticator coming in and grading the card and giving their number that they feel it is on card quality, and people rate that a lot. There's no guessing when you're selling it somewhere. This company is backing, even though there's a lot of issues with grading and they're inconsistent and all this. People trust that when they see a PSA 10, they're getting they have a relative idea of what they're getting, and so that can obviously drive the card up, because there's people that are looking for the card in the best condition they can get, and so they want somebody else to go through all the hassle of finding it, submitting it for grading, because it is quite a arduous process. And then obviously you have the other ones like the Beckett, what is it, Black Label. Those are super huge premiums because they're very hard to get. It needs to be like a near perfect card. And then there's some interesting things with some of the other ones like Tag and whatnot, but the technology is still young, and you know it's got a little bit of a ways to go. And with like the grading, it kind of gives you an idea of the centering, the surface, the edges. It kind of does all that heavy lifting for you and gives you a little bit of confidence when you're buying a product. When you're talking about these super high end ones that are worth tens of thousands of dollars, a lot of that stuff never hits the market. Even if they do, stuff, if you buy it off of eBay or whatever, they do like the authenticity guarantee thing where the seller has to ship it out to an authenticator. They prove, they verify that it's the card that you are expecting to get, and then they send it off to you. So grading and conditioning makes a huge difference in the value of a card. Um, Raw cards clearly are a little bit less, and graded cards are a lot more because all that process to get it from raw to graded will, you know, it's a luxury thing in a sense. Obviously, the popularity and demand is a huge thing in a card's value. Is it an iconic Pokemon? Those ones are always going to be worth more than some of the lesser known Pokemon when you're talking about a Charizard, a Pikachu, Mewtwo, all the evolutions, Pokemon like that are going to forever be more sought after because they're more likely for Pokemon to, that people like. Unlike other things like Doug Trio and Snoms and Bidoofs, even though I know there's a loyal following out there. You got other things like Deoxys, and you got Giratina, clearly is a super huge and popular Pokemon. So it's like those kind of things will severely drive, just the desirability of the Pokemon. Nobody cares if you get a Gem Mint 10, you know, random Pokemon that nobody cares about. I mean, one thing that kind of does make a difference in some pricing, but this isn't really for like the collecting side. But I mean, meta relevance to a card, it can kind of affect the card, but that's mostly towards most people aren't playing special illustration rares in their decks or anything like that. You're mostly just going EXs and whatnot. So, and then clearly, hype, nostalgia. You got these people buying out cards, which is some things I have done. There's some cards like I'll just go on TCG Player with no intention of buying out a card to drive up value. I'm just looking to submit a card for grading, and I have to just buy a chunk of them and then go through the ones that I feel like are worth grading and then sell the ones that I don't. So if you do buy, see some of the cards on my eBay store, a lot of them are just pulled from just booster boxes and packs and everything. So if you find anything like an EX or like full art trainers and stuff down, like they're typically perfectly fine condition, no issue. And a lot of the ones that I deem not good for grading, it's like nothing that there's anything wrong for it. It's like maybe the centering slightly off, but I would still consider them near mint cards. Um, but then you got print run and supply. Certain sets have, less of a print run, which is, why Tag Team is worth so much in a lot of those cards because it was supposedly, short print and there wasn't that much of it as compared to other sets and things of that nature. Um, if you get into vintage, you got like first edition, you got the shadowless stuff, the unlimited, and obviously they all vary in different pricing. So that kind of thing is super big, and obviously all the holy grails and everything are all special illustrations, alt arts, and things of that nature. Those are the kind of like big things that can kind of definitely change what a card's value might be. But in the end, the biggest thing that really depends on what a card's value is what somebody else is willing to pay for it. So it really kind of just comes down to what the market is trending, and kind of how people see it as an investment or whatever. As of right now, clearly we are in a massive upswing. We are bull running for days, and anybody kind of waiting for this market to come down is going to be sadly waiting for a while. going to miss out. I mean, I've missed out on a ton of things that I've been invested in early, made a slight dip, gave up on it, and then it eventually ran again. And so it's like you can miss these kind of trends and these gains just like thinking that things are going to go back to normal. And I can say, even if the market goes on a downturn, I don't know if it'll ever be how it was last year or anything like that. Um, but with the demand of single cards right now, due to the lack of availability, like I've said earlier, and all of the um, sealed product, people are just looking for opportunities in the hobby. And so I know there are some conspiracy theories and everything, and there are buyouts. People planning to go buy a card and then have it. Another. There's like forums or there's Discord channels where people are going through buying cards and trying to like pump them and whatnot. But a lot of times these cards like get pumped and then they never kind of come down. They just kind of just sets into like an actual organic demand. The drowsy is a huge one right now. Could this card come down in price? I'm sure it will, but how far down? Will it be anywhere near where it was just even a month ago? Highly doubtful, because it's just kind of an organic demand. People realize, oh yeah, this card looks super cool, and now since its supply is going to be decreased, or the sealed product is going to be decreased as people want to open more of it now to try and chase this drowsy. It's just going to be one of those things that, yeah, it might come down. It might have been pumped initially, but it kind of developed an organic following at that point. And so you can kind of blame all these buyouts and whatnot, but I don't think it's going to make anywhere near. It might cause the initial spike, but in the end, it's not, the end of the run for that card typically. So these are kind of some of the things that really do determine like the value of a card, and what is somebody willing to pay for it based on a lot of these factors. And everybody's got their own certain things. Some people don't care how nice the card is, how rare the card is. Like for me personally, I'm not a fan of vintage. I don't like the small little boxes. I like the full arts and all that kind of stuff, the alt arts. Like one of the cards that I'm super trying to get is the Twilight Masquerade Greninja. I love that card. And then the Altard Gengar from Fusion Strike. Those two are cards that I really want to try and get at some point, when I'm more able to afford it. Because right now I'm definitely not in that boat. Um, but yeah, it just comes down to what somebody themselves values that card is. So just because you may say, "Oh, this card has no value," it's not worth that. Well, clearly it is, because all these things keep selling. Like people keep buying. There's cards that I've sold that like the price is way up from when I initially had submitted my PSA grades, and so people are paying these prices, and you can kind of fool yourself into you know not doing it because you don't feel like it's worth that. Um, but I'll get off my high horse and just kind of end it with that. You know, make sure you do your research. Kind of just be on the lookout for things that had a super short spike. On whether or not you want to try and get in on it or not at that time. But as things kind of level out and everything, or maybe makes a slight dip, maybe then that might be when you buy a card. But only you can really know that. You know your budget. You know how you feel about the card. Collect what you love, but invest in what the market's going to value. So I'll just kind of ask the question, what's the most valuable card you have? As of this point, for me, I don't really have any cards. I think I showed it in my last video. It's my PSA 7, what is it, Pikachu Shiny. It was one of the first grades I did, and it just let me know that I didn't really have the eye at the beginning, and I've definitely done a lot better since then. So that's going to be it for me. I'm going to be signing off. Hopefully, you guys are still enjoying the hobby and having a little fun. And if you're not, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, this is Eric signing off. I'll see you next time.